Good evening, everybody. Good evening, good evening. How y'all doing? Good. Y'all are beautiful. First of all, can we please give it up for Crystal, our remarkable chair, for the leadership, for the work, for the vision. I'm a big believer in the idea that change does not just happen. Change is made to happen. It is made to happen. And Crystal, you are making change happen. So God bless you and thank you so much for this invitation. The only thing that you said that I'm gonna take any issue with is when you called Congressman Clyburn the jewel of South Carolina. He's America's jewel. He might be, I tell you what, I understand why you all proudly take ownership of him. But I cannot tell you a voice that has had more impact, more focus, driven more change, not just for this country as a whole, but for all of us individually, the way that James Clyburn has done. And I consider it an absolute honor to be able to say that Congressman Clyburn is not just my guide, but he is my friend. God bless you, Congressman, and thank you for everything you continue to do for all of us. And to be here with another friend like Governor Walz. You know, I remember when I first became a governor, we went to this thing called Baby Governor School, where they brought all the new governors in. And by the way, after I went to Baby Governor School, my mother was like, "What grade did you get?" And I was like, "It's not a real school, Ma." But I remember that some of the first and kindest people that for my amazing wife, Dawn, and I, who I'm blessed to be here with tonight, and as always, Maryland's got a bad first lady, y'all. But Tim, I'm never gonna forget you and Gwen. I'm never gonna forget not only the kindness, but this was a person who, when I had some of my biggest questions and biggest challenges as a new governor, and as a governor now, I've been here for 2.5 years, one of the first folks I'm gonna call is always gonna be Tim Walz. And Tim, I want you to know that you can always call on me too, because I appreciate you deeply. And Jamie, man, it is good to see you again. Jamie has always been somebody who there was not a challenge too big or too ugly that Jamie's not like, "Oh, we're gonna wrestle this thing down." Jamie, you have been fearless. Continue to be fearless. Continue to lead, because the country is better because of your leadership, man. God bless you and thank you. And I really am honored to be with each and every one of you here tonight, because I've traveled a pretty improbable journey to be with you here this evening. Because in many ways, I'm a pretty improbable governor. That I was raised by an immigrant single mom after my dad died in front of me when I was 3 years old. That I joined the Army when I was 17 years old. In fact, I was too young to sign the paperwork when I first joined the Army. My mother had to sign the paperwork for me. But as Steve Benjamin knows, after my teenage years, my mother would sign whatever paperwork that the Army put in front of her. That I'm a graduate of a 2-year college, and that a notion of a kid who had handcuffs on his wrist by the time he was 11 years old would be here to headline a big dinner in South Carolina feels pretty unusual. To be here with so many distinguished leaders and role models and change makers, it might seem like a long way from where I came from, but in many ways, tonight's a homecoming. Because my grandfather was born in South Carolina. My grandfather was born in Charleston. He was the son of Louise and Josiah Thomas, and they emigrated to South Carolina from Jamaica. Now, my great-grandfather Josiah, he was a minister, and I want to be very clear, he was a very vocal minister. All right? He was a minister who didn't just preach the word of God. He was a minister who reminded people on earth that they needed to act accordingly as well. And so this minister started receiving a whole lot of attention, and not just from the members of his congregation. This minister started receiving a whole lot of attention from the Ku Klux Klan. And so they threatened his life. They threatened his livelihood. They threatened his family. And so one night, my great-grandfather picked up his family, including his young son. They didn't just leave South Carolina. They left the United States. And they went back to Jamaica. And much of my family, to include my great-grandfather, they always pledged to never come back to this country. That the pain was too real, that the hurt was too deep, and much of my family has never come back here. But my grandfather loved America too much to let the cruelty of some diminish his love for all. And so he believed in the promise of America. And he believed that the promise of America meant that our destiny is actually in our own hands. So he came back to the States as a young man. He went to Lincoln University, an HBCU in Pennsylvania. He always said, this country would be incomplete without me, in all of his humility. And my grandfather, Reverend James Joshua Thomas, became the first black minister in the history of the Dutch Reformed Church. Now, what happened was, when he made history, the same threats that were coming to his father started coming to him. The difference is, my grandfather didn't flinch. He stayed here in America until the day that he died. When he passed away and transitioned at 87 years old while I was serving in Afghanistan with the 82nd Airborne Division. Ho. And of the many, many lessons that he taught me, I want to spend time in my remarks talking about just one of them. And frankly, and I'm glad, Congressman Clyburn, that you talked about Dr. King's letter from a Birmingham jail. Which, by the way, I truly believe that a letter from a Birmingham jail is one of the top pieces of American canon that has ever been written. I literally, every 6 months, as a reminder, I will read and reread a letter from a Birmingham jail. It is that powerful. But I think about something else that Dr. King wrote. Just like my grandfather, another son of the American South. I think about something that Dr. King wrote just a year after a letter from a Birmingham jail, because in 1963, he wrote a letter from a Birmingham jail. In 1964, he wrote another book. He wrote a book that my grandfather loved, and he wrote a book that my grandfather lived by. That book was called Why We Can't Wait. Why We Can't Wait. Because you see, Papa Jim, as we called him, Papa Jim, he was driven by impatience. It was the impatience of a man who was born in the Palmetto State, whose earliest memories was watching this country reject him. And yet, Despite that being one of his earliest memories, this was a man who was bound by this noble maxim of dum spiro spero. While I breathe, I hope. He had the impatience of Crystal Spain. He had the impatience of Congressman Clyburn. He had the impatience of Governor Walz. He had the impatience of Jamie Harrison. He had the impatience of Steve Benjamin. And I want to be very clear, that impatience now lives in his grandson. I will never waste time wasting time. Ever. Because I believe that in this moment, I believe in these perilous times that we are in, with so much at stake for those who we love and care about, for so much at stake for the direction of this country that we love. We must fight with the fierce urgency of now and make sure that those lessons that came from before are understood in the now. So tonight, in all their honor, I'm here on a mission. This is the moment for us to say together in one voice, gone are the days when the Democrats are the party of no and slow. We must be the party of yes and now. Gone are the days when we are the party of bureaucracy. Gone are the days when we are the party of multi-year studies on things that we already know. Gone are the days when we are the party of panels. Gone are the days when we are the party of college debate club rules. We must be the party of action, and that action must come now. Because right now, we are being called on to act and to lead. The people want a growing middle class, and they cannot wait. The people want access to work and wages and wealth, and they cannot wait. The people want to feel safe in their own communities and safe in their own skin, and they cannot wait. The people want access to health care that is accessible and affordable and a basic human right, and they cannot wait. The people want good schools that are supporting our educators. And they want schools that are teaching our young people how not just to be employees, but also how to be employers, and they cannot wait. So listen, I don't come from a political background. I don't come from a family that's used to writing laws or writing bills. I come from a family that's used to suffering the consequences of those laws and those bills. My North Star is not the party. It's the people. And I've been listening to what the people of my state have been saying, Democrats and Republicans, urban and rural, young and old. They just haven't been our inspirations, they've been our guides. The reason that we wanted to make Maryland a leader in uplifting our veterans and our service members is because we spend time in our VFW halls. We talk to our fellow veterans who are willing to put on the uniform of this country, but who still cannot get the basic benefits that they have earned and have been promised. And the result, the reason we move as fast as we do, the result is that Maryland is now the first state in the country to provide a pathway to free dental care and health care for members of our National Guard. The reason that we wanted to invest in local law enforcement and community groups to address the violence that was plaguing our society is because when tragedy strikes, I speak to the loved ones who are grieving. And I'm tired of spending my time speaking at funerals. I tell them that I refuse to spend my time offering thoughts and prayers while doing nothing about stopping the bloodshed in our streets. And so we made sure we took it personally and understood why we can't wait. And the result is that we've broken the back of violent crime in the state of Maryland, and today homicides are down, non-fatal shootings are down. We are seeing some of the most impressive drops in violence in our nation. The last time the homicide rate was this low in Baltimore City, I was not born yet. The reason we wanted to create jobs and raise wages is because we spend time talking to working parents. We speak to Marylanders who have tough jobs, and in some cases, multiple jobs, and still living at or below a poverty line. The result is, in Maryland, we've raised the minimum wage, we've quadrupled the number of apprenticeships, we've launched a new service year option for high school graduates, we've created nearly 100,000 new jobs since I've been the governor, and now Maryland has one of the lowest unemployment rates in the entire country. If you are connected to the people, then you understand why we cannot wait. Because they deserve better. And I believe that's what we have to be doing all over the country. The American people don't care how many studies we publish on lowering prescription drug prices if working families still cannot afford prescription drugs. The American people don't care how many programs we fund on affordable housing if they still cannot get enough money to save for a down payment. Urgency is the instrument of change. And you know who actually understands that pretty well? Donald Trump. Because let's be clear, we can and we must condemn Donald Trump's reckless actions. But we will be foolish not to learn from his impatience. Donald Trump doesn't need a study to dismantle democracy. Donald Trump doesn't need a study to use the Constitution like it's a suggestion box. Donald Trump doesn't need a white paper to start arbitrary trade wars that will raise the cost on virtually everything in our lives. And so we must think about it this way. If he can do so much bad in such a small amount of time, why can't we do such good? Now is the time for us to be impatient too. Let's not just talk about an alternative. Let's not study an alternative. Let's deliver the alternative. Right now. Right now. Republicans in Congress are slashing budgets and firing federal workers. And they're doing it, by the way, so we can give millionaires another tax cut. Millionaires another tax cut. And deliver the largest upward transfer of wealth in American history. The people need to see that there is a better way. So that's why in our state, I'm proud that I've worked with partners like my good friend, Delegate Jazz Lewis, to help our federal workers get hired and making sure that we are streamlining them in places like education and healthcare to know that if we have a need, we have outstanding federal workers that can help to fill that need as well. That I've been able to work with people like my friend Chair Vanessa Atterbury. So in Maryland, while in the federal government they are trying to cut taxes for millionaires and leave us with the bill, working with people like Vanessa Atterbury, we've been able to cut taxes for the middle class in Maryland, the people who actually need it most, and we've asked those of us who have done very well financially to pay a little bit more, and we've done it unapologetically. So then that way, we can have the best public schools in the country, and that way we can make sure that our firefighters and our police officers can stay on the job. That right now we have a president of the United States that is hosting dinners for crypto millionaires. You literally can't make this up. Hosting dinners for crypto millionaires who are investing their dollars in his own public Bitcoin company. And we haven't banned members of Congress from buying and trading stocks who are sitting in their offices while still on Capitol Hill. The people need to know there's a better way. And that's why in our state, I've worked with partners like my friend Delegate Mark Corman to hold government officials accountable and ensure that no one ever again will be able to run for governor of Maryland and use it as a get-rich-quick scheme. That right now the Trump administration is actively divesting in black communities, actively dismantling our minority business programs, and actively banning books about our history. And I want to be clear, they are not banning books about our history because they think it makes people feel uncomfortable. They are banning books about our history because they know if you know your history, you know your power. I know my history. I know my power, and that is why I know every room that I am in, I'm not there because of someone's benevolence. I am not there because of someone's kindness. I'm not there because someone wanted to sprinkle diversity into the room. I'm in that room because I belong there, and I'm in that room because it was incomplete until I showed up. So the people need to know that there is a better way. And so that's why in our state, I'm very proud to work with partners like my friend, Senator Antonio Hayes, to secure over $1.3 billion for our HBCUs, an increase of nearly 60%. We've delivered more than $800 million in state contracts for our black entrepreneurs and our black-owned businesses in Maryland. And I signed the largest pardon, single mass pardon in the history of the United States. 175,000 cannabis convictions were pardoned in the stroke of a pen. Because we cannot talk about the benefits of legalization if we do not deal with the consequences of criminalization. Doing the work of repair cannot wait. It must be done now. The fight for our future does not take place in the future. The battleground is here. The fight is now. In 10 years, our success will not be measured by how much we resisted or how loud we yelled. Our success will be measured in the results that we deliver to make life better for people. The wages we raised, the jobs we created, the homes we built, the bridges we built, and the lives that we changed. That's how we will be evaluated. And anybody who is talking about 2028 doesn't understand the urgency of 2025. Doesn't understand the assault that we are under right now. And we have a bunch of unserious people who are making these decisions and making life harder for our families, making it difficult for us to build legacies, making it more challenging to say that we understand the assignment of now. But we have to remember, these are not the times for us to feel powerless. These are times for us to understand our power. We stand on the shoulders of those who saw injustice and were still impatient for change and knew that they will be the ones to lead the charge. We stand on the shoulders of people like Mary McLeod Bethune, who was born in Maysville, founded the National Council of Negro Women 3 decades before the passage of the Voting Rights Act. We stand on the shoulders of people like Robert Smalls, born into slavery in Beaufort, but escaped to his freedom. And after a Civil War, he represented the people of South Carolina in the United States Congress. We stand on the shoulders of another son of the Palmetto State, my grandfather, Reverend Dr. James Joshua Thomas, who had a deep Jamaican accent his entire life, but had South Carolina grit all through his bones. A deep Jamaican accent his entire life, but maybe was the most patriotic American that I've ever met. He loved this country. He loved this country not because he was ignorant of this country's complicated past. In fact, it's the opposite. He was born into this country's complicated past. But he loved this country because of what it represented. A hope for a better future. He knew that America was the most unique experiment in the history of the world. And that promise was worth protecting. And just before I deployed for Afghanistan with the 82nd, airborne, my grandfather gave me a Bible. And y'all know it's one of those, little Bibles, just the New Testament in it, little ones, green copy. So it literally was small enough, it fit right in my flak vest, and I put it in my flak vest before I went on every mission. And on the front cover, he wrote an inscription, and it just simply said, "Have faith, not fear." And I used to recite that before I went on every mission. Have faith, not fear. Have faith, not fear. Have faith, not fear. I might have recited before I got up here to give this speech. But my grandfather also understood something too. That while he wrote faith, not fear in the front of that Bible, he also understood that, as the Bible says, that faith without work is dead. Have faith, not fear. But faith without work is dead. So, all my friends, if you share the same optimism that I feel, if you share the same aspirations that I know, if you know in your heart that America can be better tomorrow than it is today, then let us refuse to be the party that is governed by fear, and let us have faith that our cause is just and that our vision is true. And then let us turn around and turn that faith into action. Let those actions be our legacy, and let that legacy be those that our children will know that we understood the assignment. Not tomorrow, not next week, but right here and right now. It is with that action that we will lead. It is with that action that we will win. With God as our protector. With God as our protector. With the wind at our back, and knowing that there is no weapon that is formed against us that shall prosper. Let us stride boldly into a future that those who came before us hope for, and those who come after us that they deserve. So God bless you. Thank you so much, and let's leave no one behind.